The juju. So
Yeah, man. Tell them that this ain't just because you always, you know, because we are brothers, but this is your actual.
Yeah, this is. We came from the same uterus. We came from the same uterus. Yes. Not tonight, Ma. I mean, we get it from her though. Like, she, you know, my mother, she's Jamaican, so she's, off the chain. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. But yeah, man, I'm really excited about today's show, man. I know it's gonna be a deep conversation, but Amir, let's get shit popping, man.
I mean, y'all know what the fuck it is, man. He said, man, it's Common Sense Experience, brought to you by the Black Panthers Network. Man, listen, man. There's so much shit that's going on, man. Pete, I know you got a lot on your mind, though. So, man, without further ado, man, what the fuck is grinding your gears, Pete? Man? What's on your mind? Yeah. Well, you know how we do, man. I always grind my gear. What's pissing me off at the moment. But before I do that, I want to get serious real quick and give a Rest in the Sky shout out to Combat Jack, a.k.a. real name, Reggie Racist. He recently passed away from colon cancer, and a lot of people don't know he's really the original that started this whole hip hop, this whole podcasting networking for Black people. He's really the originator to have his own network, to have his own show. And first he was a lawyer. He was a lawyer, entertainment lawyer, helped out a lot of artists and everything. And then went from that and transitioned to a podcaster. He did what he loved. And he always ended his podcasts with, internet, dream your dreams. And he always had a positive word. He always had something innovative to say to keep all the dreamers and other creators going and to keep them doing what they're doing and don't quit. So, pioneer, man, we have to really do it. And so I just want to say rest in the sky and I'm at Jack, man, and hopefully I can carry on your name along with my brothers and continue what you inspired us to do, and that's to be creative and, have our own shit. So rest in the sky to Combat Jack, man. And that's right. That's what's up. Yeah. All right, man. Now we got that out the way. We got the sentiments out the way, man. And rest in peace to Combat Jack and his family. If you got kids or anything, though. But Pete, man, I already know a lot going on, man. What the fuck? Come on. Come with it, man. Hey, man. So, recently, Complex got rid of Joe Budden, man. And I don't know if y'all hit to the show every day struggling. To come on every day. It was a lot of good content. And it was a show on YouTube. That came on every day. It was Joe Budden along with 2 other niggas. I'm not even going to address their names because they're a part of the collusion. So, long story short, Joe Budden had an idea to have a show where the silence can have a voice. And a lot of people in media and entertainment, they like to hold back shit, can't really talk through contracts. And Joe Budden was one of the few that's like, yo, fuck the corporate world, man. We speak, let's have our own thoughts, let's have our own. And it was done. And that's it for about 6 months, and it was so good. And I got to hear his contract because there was a lot of behind the scenes negotiations with other corporate companies didn't want to have anything to do with in the first place. Having a show with a company like a Complex, man, it's like you can come in here, but at the end of the day, when it's time to renew their contract, all they care about is the money at the end of the day. And the thing I like about the thing that's glad in my gear is how they're trying to blame Joe Budden. Like he's the one that left the show. Like he's the one who quit. Like he's the one who gave up on him and said, nah, I'm not messing with y'all. When that wasn't the case at all, I don't know if you got better heard the podcast recently. Well, first of all, congratulations, because the man just had a baby. So notice how fucked up that is. They fired the man for her. Right after his baby was born. And, right. So yeah. That's kind of some bad shit. So when Complex is in partnership with Verizon, I'm trying to break it down quickly. That's what we were really on story. They're in partnership with Verizon, and which Joe Button did not really do, because once you partner with the bigger company, they are able to set the rules. They are able to tell you what you can talk about and what you cannot talk about. They are also able to tell you what you can play and what you can't play. And like right now, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely, bro. That's exactly what it is. And so Joe Button really looked the shit and said, you know what? I'm a creative person. I started drawing. Ain't no way I know I can do it again, so I'm going to just move on and do what I got to do. And then the third body, he's still doing blessings. He's still shouting them out. They said not one bad thing about Complex. Wish them all the best. Even like you wish them all the best. But yet and still, Complex is still trying to turn and make it seem like it's all Joe Button. He a loud dude. He passionate. You know, his emotions on his sleeve. And sometimes how he talk at people, it gets misconstrued for how he really feels. You know how we do when passionate about shit. They misinterpret things. And they really went along with it like they're better smart. And it just kind of fucked up, man. And they go to show you the way of the corporate world and how these businesses really feel about you.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, go ahead and show you. I got something I want to say about you guys.
No, I mean that's the same shit that happened with Dave Chappelle, where Dave Chappelle all this money, but he understood that once he turned over that to the corporation, that his content would be filtered. Like he couldn't do certain shit that he couldn't touch on. And that was fucked up. Like, yo, that's Amir, you said like BET with Viacom. That shit is crazy. Now why? And more people like Dave Chappelle, more people like Joe Buttons, to where they're not going to compromise values. So they know this is my content. I should be free to say whatever I want to say in the so-called land of the free speech.
Right.
Why is my No, you're good.
It's plenty ways to be comfortable. It's plenty ways to get the money rolling in on the creative shit that you love to do. It may take a little longer. It may not go as fast as if you want this power in a big company. But there's ways to have your own shit and keep your credentials and keep your soul, man. And that's what Joe Button and Dave Chappelle is trying to do. And that's why I commend them, boys. And if you notice, those are the media people that call those types of people the conspiracy theories, the crazy ones.
Yeah.
These motherfuckers go against the grain. They don't set bit.
Yeah.
They grown men.
Yeah.
The little pastor, but that's just what it is.
Yeah, especially when you look at like
it happens a lot.
You said what?
It happens a lot. Excuse me. I said it happens a lot. I just saw that interview with Cat Williams. Something I thought was calling him crazy. He refused to do some things and refused to shut up about certain topics, and didn't stand down. So how they attempt to destroy him, and how he's just not being able to make a comeback along with someone like Dave Chappelle, who started 10 years ago. They didn't want them to shut up when it's the truth.
Yeah.
And so Joe falls right into that, and I think outside of maybe outside of Dave Chappelle, but like Cat Williams is the same type of person, like emotional. They say what's on their mind. Him and Joe are very similar in that matter, and so it's easy to attack them. It's easy to call them crazy or to send off the world because they're the two men that stand their ground with emotion.
Yeah.
Someone like Dave Chappelle was easier because he just walked away without saying anything. He had to say what he had to say once he came back. But yeah, they gotta shut up somebody.
Yeah. 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 But this is also, and Amir, I know you want to hop in there, but this is not new. Like, and I know we're going to talk about the Black Panthers later on to the show. But when I was watching that documentary, and some of the verbiage and language that J. Edgar Hoover was using to describe the Black Panthers, like he was painting a picture as if this was a terrorist organization, when that was not the case at all. So we have a history of media portraying a particular image of black people, regardless of its validity, and in more cases than not, it's not true.
That's to this day.
Yeah.
That's even today. We'll call rioters most times instead of protesters, instead of marchers. You know, it's called riot behavior, but when another group does it, it's called unruly.
Yeah.
The kids just having fun. When they burnt down the city over that football ring, it was just college kids having fun.
Yeah.
But the Black Lives Matter movement is a terrorist organization. Right. So that's crazy. That's crazy out there calling other people terrorists. Yeah. Shout out to you. Yeah. Look, man. Look. I'll just say this to the creators, man. There can be no entertainment without the creators. So just understand you hold the power, and there can be nothing without black people. I know that's like so man. But that's just the goddamn truth. We are the fathers and mothers of civilization. We created everything. So everything starts with us. We wouldn't be on the cell phone right now and on the internet without black people creating the things that made those things run.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But don't go back to them. Fuck them. Who are them niggas? They tell me them niggas, and they end up coming back at Dave Chappelle. Why? Because Dave Chappelle has a lot of power, and Netflix said, fuck that. So
yeah.
When they realize your worth,
yeah.
They just keep doing it. Yeah, I can't wait for the special to come out on New Year's Eve. I'm looking forward to New Year's Eve. That's a boss move. That's like, you know what? Stay at home and watch my show.
Yeah.
All right. Let's gather up. Let's go ahead. Let's get some liquor. Let's get pop. Let's you know what I'm saying, smoke, do whatever. Let's go ahead. Let's laugh. That's why they might go out afterwards and after hours stuff. But people gonna be at home watching their show. That's a boss move right there, man. That's a major boss move. Yeah, man. So yeah, man. Just know, man, that we hold the power. They don't even got A&Rs anymore or whatever. They have to come to us.
Yeah.
But
they have no choice.
Check out your YouTube and all this other stuff and different things. Though. They don't even have A&Rs out here trying to go out and find talent. They're not trying to find things. They're fucking with me.
Yeah.
Just check their Instagram. So just understand, y'all hold the power. Fuck them. You think the show's gonna survive with academics? What? Fucking what? Fucking clown. Get the fuck out of here. But I will give a shout out to him though, only on this bit. He did stick up for Joe Budden in his what he said. He did stick up for him. I'll give him that. Now was that a front? Will he end up doing some sneaky shit? I couldn't put it against him because I don't expect much from him. But at least on the front end, he did at least, you know what I mean, do that though. As far as what's the Lucy brother? Nah, I don't lose her, man. She's trash. She's so trash. I don't know if that boy started Twitter and shit, man. It was like, yo, I'm not even gonna get into it. That's the show. Somebody trying to get it out. You clearly use this shit for everything. You use certain arguments, and you use certain women shit, how dare you shit for arguments. And it goes against everything that even really fits. It's like, that got nothing to do with the situation. And then somebody called it out, and it was like, well, we just want to know that you have George Budden's back. We see that academics kind of had to detail something, and they can't even say shit. And she didn't even respond to it. But she told me how she responds to all the negative shit, you know, with some fake positive shit. But you got positive motherfuckers asking you legitimate questions, but you don't want to answer that. But like I said, that's another show. My bad.
You good, man.
That's all good, though, man. All right, man. You know what, man? I guess, you know what I mean? Let's just get right into it, though, today, though, man. And I'm going to go ahead, though, man. My partner, besides being, Charles' brother and my brother, I've known Justin now. We don't know. I'm telling you. Fuck it. Was it 1984? 23 years?
Yes, it's pretty long ass time.
Yeah, I was 25 in. And so, besides that, though, you're also a deacon at the church. I don't know if you want to say what church you go to. I'm a deacon at a church. I'll say how this conversation goes.
And he's very passionate about matters that concern obviously the church, things like that. Though, and from different posts, different things that I wrote, whatever though, you comment, what I'm saying, I could tell that you do have a deep passion also, particularly about the black church and the certain churches involved in the black. So I guess what do you think the black church how should they play a role within the black community? Do you think there's hypocrisies in churches and things that maybe you can discuss that you see and have observed that's within the church? And maybe other things that you want to kind of give other people kind of a inside look into the going on and things like that, though, and different questions that's probably been asked to you, and go ahead and answer those type of questions. So just kind of go ahead and go on that, if you may.
Well, that's kind of a little broad, but just saying some of the things that I think the black church should be involved in, obviously, to give back to the community, which is one of the biggest high points, or one of the biggest what do you call the word? Accusations of the black church that they don't give back to the community. And again, I'm not on here to represent every black church in America, much less the city of Buffalo. I'm just going to be speaking from some of my experience, like I said, and what I see. And at times, it is a fair accusation, and at times I believe that it's overblown. Mostly because some accusers are those who have no idea what's transpiring. They hear the word church, and then they want to say, "Oh, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you building homes? Or why aren't you giving all of your money back to the community?" And some of the things that the community wants, I feel, is sometimes unattainable. Like from our church in general, we're a small church. By small, I mean we average, I guess this is a medium, because we average in about 50 or 75 people on a Sunday. But that's still relatively small. And what a lot of people don't understand is, with all this conflicting information about tithing and offerings, money is low. Me being a deacon, I see what comes in, and I see operating costs. And then you have people accusing church members who have legitimate jobs, specifically like a pastor who has a legitimate job, working 40+ hours a week, just to hold his house down, and you have the same car that somebody else has, and they're accusing him of stealing the church's money. When that's just not the case. There are pastors out here getting $200 a week from their church, and they're supposed to live off and give off of that. And so those are some of the small things that I believe that when the black church is under attack, that people don't take into account. They say we're taking the poor's money. Well, that's not all. It's just what we discussed earlier, I believe, that Amir on a different post. Although backing him up, I despise blanket statements.
I'll say like this: the reason why I leave blanket statements is because I'm trying to give people enough room to go ahead and, because I think a lot of times when you kind of form stuff, people kind of want to just attack it immediately. They want to come with this fervor, this kind of this energy that's kind of like, oh, I gotta say this, oh no, fuck that. So it's like, you know what? I'm gonna ask it like this. Now go ahead. Then they can start a conversation. Now it does a lot of times start a conversation, and sometimes I may not have the exact thing, but this is kind of on my mind. All right, let me go ahead and put that out there in the world, and then people kind of come back and they'll start responding, they'll say different things, and then all right, a question kind of come from that. Now we can go ahead and have a dialogue instead of just me naming my opinion or me saying something, and then it automatically comes like, So that's kind of why I do that to a degree.
Well,
now, can I ask this question though? Because from the outside, and that's why they use the word hypocrisy, because it does seem like a lot of times from the outside looking at it, you're on the inside. To obviously, being in the church, being a deacon, but from our standpoint, I definitely know from Pete's standpoint, and Chuck has alluded to it as well, is that it does kind of feel like a lot of times that when people are going to church and saying, they're now spiritual, they feel like saying this and that they kind of look down upon those who don't. Like it kind of feels like the church has its own thing, its own club, and if you're not in that club, you're not in. We shouldn't have to speak to you, or you're a sinner, or I'm rebuking you, and these different things. Even though I know from obviously you want to cast away demons and these different things, it does come off sort of like the people that's in the club who are calling you lame for not having certain things at the club. So it kind of has the same energy. Do you know what I mean? Can you see that standpoint from our vantage point?
I definitely see that, but I'll continue to answer, but I know Charles wants to get in.
Yeah, so really quick, and just to piggyback off what so I agree with you 100%. When we make these statements that the black church doesn't do everything, these are very general statements. Obviously, we can't pinpoint and say, okay, well, exactly 10% of churches in America only do X, Y, and Z for the black. Like we can't. That'd be close to impossible to pinpoint that accurate data. But to base off what Amir said as far as experience is concerned, and having these like sets in these clubs, this is a couple of years ago, and I think I told you this, Justin, where I applied to there's this ministry I was following, I'll say Seventh-day Adventist. I was watching this one particular ministry. Like I was so drawn in. I started reading books by Ellen G. White, and I'm talking about 500-600 page books, and reading those books, and I'm like really into this stuff. And like, I think I want to be a minister. I think I want to go and minister to people as a Seventh-day Adventist. So they had this online program where you go through the school and you got to get certified and whatnot. I was like, cool, let me do that. So I submit my application. A few days later, it comes back saying, oh, I'm sorry, we can't accept you into the program. You're not part of our faith or whatever. You're not an Adventist. Sorry, and that was it. They just left it at that. No alternatives. So, and that's not what led my decision to leave the church. Like that was a part of it, but that particular is because that was a very, I don't say traumatic because I don't want to get too dramatic, but I was impacted by that very negative. That left a very negative impression of the goal that the Bible and certain religions are trying to reach out to the masses. Like that shifted my whole mentality. So I get what Amir is saying, is that you have these certain sects of churches where, look, you have to meet these requirements in order to get in. And that's not even in the Bible. Like, I don't know where in the Bible that's even, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. But I don't know where in the Bible it says that.
Okay. I'll respond to that. That's a double-edged sword dealing with things that are like online and religion. For one, a lot of places want to avoid crooks.
Yeah.
Which is what people are accused of.
Yeah.
You have somebody, to their knowledge, out the blue, you want a ministry license. Why? When you haven't been attending services, like they can't find you in the roll call, right? So why do you want to be canals out the blue for them?
Yeah.
You want to become minister. That to them, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
So although I feel there's better ways to do it, for them they have to be selective. Because if they let anybody in to be a leader, this is when we get the mega church ambassadors who are abusing people, who are taking church money. That does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't. It does happen.
Yeah. Big Joel.
But no, so there has to be a selectiveness, you are baptized. Because the baptism is a symbolism of an inward change.
Yeah.
You know, it's more than just getting wet. And so people think that I'm going to baptize, so I love it. Now all my sins are physically washed away, and now I can start over again. That's not how it's supposed to work. And so a lot of people believe a lot of things, it's just not how it works. And then they run with this information, and then they believe that's what is true because it sounds right to them. And they get half information, and now everything is wrong.
Yeah.
So I think, and a lot of people have strong opinions against a certain religion, hasn't studied that religion. Like you don't know what you're talking.
Justin, let me ask this question. Pete. I know you want to get in on this though. I just want to ask this one question because you do this in the interest of fairness. You have said that a lot of these pastors, they have jobs, they have these different things, and they have jobs, and the mothers of the church, though, and the sister board, and all these different things. This is a question that's been asked, though, I know, by a lot of people. Then, once you decide to become a pastor, and once you decide to become a deacon, and obviously, if you have, you're married, you're a husband. Obviously, if you have children, you're a father. What then does your title then, as pastor, certainly, maybe more than deacon, but certainly as pastor or even assistant pastor, does that supersede what you are as far as a father and a husband once you take on such a high title? Is that a fair something to take or no? In your opinion?
Okay. No. Okay. That's not saying that. And that's not saying that the ministry starts at home, literally.
Okay.
Right? So no, you're and this is where and sometimes this is where a lot of pastors mistake. They believe that all of this stuff has to go to the church or and pastor makes a mistake and other makes a mistake. I've made it at times. You know what I'm saying? When I'm always there. I'm always doing stuff. I'm cutting my friends off, this, that, the third. Because I believe a certain thing that just wasn't true. And so, no, a pastor position in the church does not supersede his responsibilities at all. Those definitely come first. Before anything else, those definitely come first. Especially a pastor who's married, right? Because that's the most covenant relationship. Is when that's marriage. That's why Christ modeled that type of relationship as himself with the church. Because there's nothing more sacred than marriage. And that's but that goes to the other thing. I don't want to go down a rabbit hole. But so no, a pastor position in church should never supersede the position at home.
But what you do find is that a lot of times though, the pastors will hold their congregation to having the church for their lives.
That's true.
You see a lot of that.
That's true.
And so this is why I'm asking. So it's like you hold these parishioners and you hold them to a standard that you're not holding yourself to. Is that fair? Because there's a lot of times that you don't give a certain amount, 10% of your money. You don't have it, or if you're not attending church, before you should attend church, if you don't do certain things, then to not ostracize it, maybe that's too easy of a word though, but you're kind of put off, like what I'm saying, like you're not really with it, but yet when it comes to holding them to a certain standard, then it's like, well, this and that, and this and that, and this and that. It's not saying for all. I'm saying there's a lot. Now, not even saying most, but a lot. There's enough that's a problem.
To be honest, I haven't personally run into a pastor that expected more from his church than he has done. So I really can't speak to that because a lot of
being in that church though, you have a morality about you that you still have a certain connection to the outside, to where you would be like, okay, this is there's something beyond just what I'm getting far as with the spirit though. I have to go and say this is not right. But there's a lot of people that they use that do think that, such as our mothers, our grandmothers, and aunts, and other people though that they use, and they'll use that against them. cheap because there's women pastors as well.
That is so dangerous, and it corrupts so much, right? I think they say what power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. So I hold that to be true, and it's so dangerous for a lot of people who feel that they want this, right? And that's going to be careful about. Why are you here? You're here for promotion, and you're right. When people get in that position of power, they take advantage. And so that's to take advantage, but that's a danger in everything, right? And anywhere, you know, and there's nothing we can honestly do about that per se besides catch it and call it out when it happens, you know. But you're right, it's dangerous when religion is for faith, and it seems it does seem more I don't know, more diabolical.
Okay,
not prevalent, but more like it's like somebody, it's like, you know, if you were to kill a regular person and you were to kill a child, right, or take advantage of a regular person or take advantage of a child. It's just when you're taking advantage of, I can't find the word I'm looking for, but it does it more. It's more effective or than when you see it.
I mean, you can't say this word though, but it's more fucked up. I'm not gonna try to go to the dictionary. It's more fucked up.
I think about that.
Take advantage of kids and the elderly. It's more fucked up than doing it to a person who is more, you know what I'm saying, more mindful of certain things than someone who's more, you know, gullible or things like that in that nature. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean,
go ahead, my bad.
Hello, Pete? Yeah. No, that's what's going, Jeff. No, I'm good. Don't worry about me, man. I'm listening. Sometimes the interviewee gotta listen.
All right, so I yeah. All right, so I want to switch gears a little bit, Justin. I want to narrow in on. So earlier you said that you have, you know, the congregation that you attend is small, and the one that I used to go to here in Baltimore was fairly small, around the same size, between 50 and 75 members. I was listening to a radio show the other day, and this guy's he's an attorney from Atlanta, and he had visited a church in New Jersey. It was a black church in New Jersey, and he became real friends, close with the pastor and whatnot. And long story short, he came to find out that every single member of that congregation didn't have any debt, and their houses were paid off. So when he found out, I was like, "Whoa, what the hell happened? How is this even possible?" He said, "What they practiced was group economics." And so I'm bringing this up because earlier you said that churches may not have, you know, when you're talking about giving back to the community and they want to do this X, Y, and Z. And in order to help somebody else, you have to help yourself. Not in all cases, right? Not all. You could be struggling financially and have $5 in your pocket. You see somebody homeless, you can give them the last $5, right? I'm not talking about those small things. I'm talking about like on a grand scheme of things. Like if you're really struggling really bad and you're trying to help and impact the community, and there's different ways of impact, right? There's economical, there's like physical labor and whatnot. So let's just stick to the strictly like the economical, because you can be broke as shit, but still be out there helping the community, cleaning up the streets, going door to door ministering. But I'm talking about from an economic standpoint. So if you have a small church like that, right, and the pastor came up with this program where group economics, where everybody helps everybody in the church eliminate debt. So now they have no debt, their mortgage is paid off and everything. And then they take that same knowledge and start spreading out into the community. Why don't we hear more churches doing that? Like, go ahead. I'll let you answer, my bad.
I don't know why you don't hear it. I don't because it happens. I don't know why you don't hear it. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you. I can only tell you that it's the reason why we don't hear about a lot of black kids going to college. You know what? You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of good things that happen within the black community that doesn't get out to the news.
That's true. That's very true.
You know, and there are two things that are right, like that church. That's wonderful that they've done that. You know, that he was able to get across group of economics in his church. You know, I don't know if that will work everywhere.
Why? Whoa. All right, why do you say that?
Because some people won't adhere to that teaching. Like even within the city, you can because then that. But see, the thing is, that church were taught that, you know, they were taught to give, right? If you give this, there's so mistrust in a lot of places. Some of that won't hold on because that everybody has to agree to that.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Everybody has to buy into that for that to work. That church was blessed enough for everybody bought in.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Why don't we have another Black Wall Street? You know what I mean? Because there's so mistrust within the Black community.
Yeah.
But there are certain places in this nation to where Black people are flourishing because they've all bought in. That's
true. Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So because of what's there, again, we're still dealing with people. Whether they're inside or outside the church, we're still dealing with people.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? Good point. I agree.
And that's why I would love for that to happen somewhere here in the city.
I agree 100%. Okay.
Most people serve three masters. That's just plain and simple. We go to racist white schools. We serve a lot of us serve a white God and a white Jesus. Though you can't do that and have a Black agenda at the same time.
You definitely can't. Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying this about all. It's funny of who they are or they're from and all that stuff. Though, like you said, you know, we talked about it before. Though, integration has been
the worst
thing that happened to us. We do it for ourselves. We were all right. We're self-sufficient. You know, we want to be a part of that. So I mean, it's like you say, you don't see it, and then it's not taught. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like even and I'll say this really quick, and I want so I was listening to a lecture by Amos Wilson, and he goes like really deep into this shit. Like he goes really deep. So he was talking about even when you read a book on psychology, let's call it Psychology 101, where you're reading a book on Psychology 101, like a study book. That book was not written with us in mind. So that's something that we have to keep in mind when we're we're talking about any area of education when it's coming from a European perspective. That was not written with non-Europeans in mind. That was written written strictly for the European brain. And we all know this race thing is culturally created, but it's actually a fact. So a white psychology is different from a Black psychology, and Amos Wilson breaks it down perfectly. So, and I was just piggybacking off what Amir was saying. We're talking when we go to a white institution. Yeah, you got a PhD, but where'd you get it from? What classes did you take to get that PhD? You're just an ignorant Negro. That's what you are.
Outside of that education, so that you can really be educated. Because now you have a degree. You got to be educated.
It's the miseducation. That's what Web Du Bois talked about. The miseducation. Or not Carter G. Woodson. My bad. Not Web Du Bois.
Well, in what I study like what I'm interested in is, like human behavior and all that stuff. The human doesn't matter because all our brains are the same. And we found that out, right? But all our brains are the same. So it's what you learn outside. So a lot of things that, like you said, that book was not written for Black, but we can still probably take and use some of those.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Modify it to benefit us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. And that's what Amos Wilson talked about in his video. He said, because when he does when he did his classes, he would start with this is called Psychology 1. I forgot the name of the book he mentioned, but he would start with that book, and he would have his students go through that book. And what you just said, Justin, is like, look, we're going to read. This is the book we're going to study, but we're going to look at it from a different perspective. We're going to keep in mind that, hey, this is not written for us, but what information can we take from this particular book and apply it to our situation as Black people to affect change, not only in our lives, but the lives of our children, our wives, our husbands, our brothers, our sisters, the community at large. So
So, it's 4 o'clock, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Thanks for coming on, brother.
And I definitely would like to come on again. Amir, Chuck, and Pete, it was wonderful. And I'll still be listening, but you guys have a good day.
All right, bro. You too, man. Love you, man.
I want everybody out there in the world, though, man. Look out for the next year or two for Brother Deacon Brian Wood's book. Thank you. All right, Justin, man. Appreciate it, brother. Yeah, no doubt about it, man. That's Justin, man, it's finishing knowledge, though. Give us an insight, though, man, on both sides of the spectrum. It's good to hear from somebody who has who's inside the church, but also still has a connectedness that isn't judgmental to the people on the outside of it. Pete, you know what I'm saying? I know you said you were listening for a while there, though, brothers. I was just going to go ahead and just let the information kind of soak in, though. Anything you want to kind of say before we get to the next topic, brother?
I'm good, man. You just, you gotta just listen and not listen to rebuttal. You know what I mean? Like shit.
Yeah, man, that was awesome, man. All right. Black Panthers. All right. We all know that the brother Fred Hampton just had his was the day that he passed, actually. Just passed like a couple weeks ago now. Maybe even a few weeks ago. It's December 4th, right?
I think so. Yeah, around that time. Yeah.
19 days ago, so about 2.5 weeks. And yeah, man, and they just had a show recently on TBS called The Vanguards of the Revolution. Black Panthers, The Vanguards of the Revolution was the full name of it. Am I correct, Charles?
Yeah, on TV. I don't know the name of that one. I forgot the name of that one.
All right, man, we know about it, man. You know what I'm saying, though, from Brother Huey, P. Newton, Bobby Seale. We know about these different things that have went on, obviously, with the food program that they had. Though they try to make it seem like these are just guys just going around in black clothes, toting guns. Yeah, they were toting guns to protect their community from people who were trying to kill them. I know the cops. that terrorist group knows the cops. So we know about like the story or whatever, though. But just to kind of go ahead and get y'all feelings. What are y'all feelings on the movement as a whole? And is this something that we should and that we may just have to get back to? I guess we'll start with Pete. And Chuck, go ahead and I kind of give my, Chuck always says my 2 cents on the topic.
All right, so how I feel about the movement, and so we get back to the movement. Something similar to that aspect, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Well, man, this dude, right? To understand the Black Panthers is to understand fucking community. The definition of the word community. You know what I mean? And it's just like, I'm thinking and it feel like I'm speaking because how they were taken out. It was like so fucked up, but the Ku Klux Klan still exists to this day. Actual terrorist group. You know what I'm saying?
Actual terrorist group.
You know what I mean? And I don't know if it's the same documentary on Netflix, but I seen the joint on PBS. And the joint, it goes to show you how these fuck white folks in power who got beat up in high school or who is ashamed of their true sexuality and shit, will feel a certain way about themselves, fuck up the country. Edgar Hoover was a little pussy with power. You know what I mean? Pretty much. And I know I'm putting the onion on it, and I'm going like not answering the question fully, but how that just goes to show you how I feel to answer the first part of the question about the movement. You know what I mean? Like the movement in itself defines community. the movement gave out free breakfast to the poor folks and helped educate the poor kids. And y'all was mad because they weren't being educated on what the fuck y'all was trying to educate us, and y'all should be at school curriculum. You know what I'm saying? Like, if the Black Panthers was to exist today, you would be in a totally different space right now. And that's just bottom line, plain and simple. And America, yeah, killed that shit. They murdered that shit. Do we need to get back to that shit? Absolutely. Yes, we do. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? And it's just unfortunate how, like, it wasn't even so long ago that the Black Panthers existed. It wasn't 60s and 70s. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even that long ago. So, the fact that it needs to happen, yeah. What happened, I don't know. We got a lot of shit to handle before that, but it definitely needs to happen again.
Now, Shelly, before you go ahead, I just kind of go further to that question. But do you think that it has to come back? When I said it may have to, I'm guessing I'm referring a little bit to the militant part, though. But do you think we have to come with the same approach? If we do?
I don't know if it's so more militant, but more so like I don't even know if to describe it. Just real shit. Just come. I think you can use. I'm not saying you can't add that into it. I'm just saying that can't be totally 100% the way you bring it to the forefront. You know what I mean? Like you weed out the fake niggas. You know what I mean? You weed out the bullshit. Like you bring in the real niggas. You know who you are. You creative. You a gangster. You a gangster. You know what I mean? The OGs talk to the OGs. Like real talk. Sidebar. Why the fuck is Jordan Williams still living? Like, you know what I'm saying? If this was Black Panther Party Day, William would have been like the fuck out of here. You know what I'm saying? He would have been the fuck out of here. This is how you out here threatening Jay-Z and shit. Like, over the Trayvon Martin and that music they about to make. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, if we was back to how the Panther Party was, that William situation is getting the fuck out of here. I said it. Shut down was my fault. When we talking military as the mind frame of it. And this is what it is for certain shit. But you still come real. You sound metal. We need everything. We need the scientists. We need the doctors. We need the lawyers. We need all that shit to come together. We need the poets. We need all that shit. We need the lecturers. You know what I'm saying? And we got the fake shit. I don't know if I answered your question. That's just how I feel, bro.
You're saying, though, we don't have to necessarily have as much as we need to have the action.
But
Chuck, obviously, brought your attention. So I know you have a lot that you want to see on this topic, though. So go ahead, man. Say what you got to say.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna say this. And I'm gonna say I kind of disagree slightly as far as the action is very important. Action is the number one thing. We're talking about the look. Like if you just look at pictures of the Black Panthers and how just the attire that they wore, and just their physical image of a Black Panther, very intimidating, I can imagine, to white people. I seen a Black Panther walk down the street, like, oh shit. He got his leather suit on with his shades and he's got his hat on. He's walking on. All right, shit. Let me type my shit up. So, what I agree 100%. Action is way more important than image, but I do think image does play a part in how and initially they were so successful in getting the attention of the FBI. I don't know if y'all agree or disagree with that.
Absolutely. No. Black men and women and all black with guns.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. 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 And yeah. Yeah. And
I'm not going to show like I don't know. I was just talking about like we already image-based content anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and we can equal the action with the shit we already. The image is gonna be nothing because we've been about the image.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We've always been about the image. When we want something to action, we gotta equal that shit together. That's what I was trying to say. I wasn't knocking the image at all.
Yeah. Yeah. So my take on and like I've obviously I heard of Black Panthers, but I really never looked at the history of the Black Panthers until I watched that show on Netflix, and it brought so many ideas to mind, especially with the book I'm reading now and looking at where we are as Black people today, and just knowing the history of Black people here in America. Like when you look at the success, unfortunately, of the Crips and the Bloods, how a lot of the members that they recruited were young people. Talking about 14, 15, 16-year-olds. This was the same case with the Black Panthers. You got people coming in 14, 15, 16 years old, men and women, because they stood for something, and it was something that they saw was uplifting and had a chance to actually empower Black people. Something that can really shift the tide as far as power is concerned here in America. Right. So when you look at, as Amir alluded to earlier, some of the social programs that they were they were engaged with, giving out breakfast Monday through Friday every morning. They started to implement a healthcare program where people in the community can get free healthcare. At that point, we're talking about economics. Economic revolution. We're talking about fucking the economy up with this free healthcare shit from a European perspective, a people in power perspective. We're talking about a organization that was designed to protect their people from onslaughts from the hands of police and other organizations in America. So we weren't even on no offensive type shit. We were, look, this is defense. We're playing strictly defense right now. Because you guys are raping our women, beating and killing our people by the hands of the police. This is what the fuck is happening. So we need to protect our community by taking this type of stance. And not only protecting our community, we need to start uplifting them. We need to start empowering them. So then when this, and I call him I said this at work too. J. Edgar, who was a devil. That man he looks like a devil. Yeah. So when you look at and we talked about a little bit earlier, as far as like the image is concerned, when Justin was on, like some of the wording that he was using in his reports to COINTEL, I think COINTELPRO was the name of the program that he was going to use to infiltrate the Black Panther Party, right? And some of the verbiage he was using, like, like how can you even consider this a terrorist organization when you have, as Pete said earlier, the Ku Klux Klan hanging Black people from fucking trees, but not infiltrate there? I mean, we know the answer, but I'm just saying, like, when you look at it, and I hate when people say, Black people need to stop complaining. Like they say all this other shit. Like, you can't. You have to realize this is a system, and this is not new. Like the book I'm reading now, the selective readings on Marcus Garvey, when he was talking about the Universal Negro Improvement Association. This is some of the same philosophies that Marcus Garvey was trying to do. He wasn't trying to do it here in America. He was trying to do that shit in Africa, but it was still for the upliftment of the Black community. He was exposing the Ku Klux Klan and some of the other racist organizations in America, but yet and still, they identified the Black Panthers as a terrorist organization, when that wasn't not even what they were. And then that's when they implanted. And okay, so I will say one of the criticisms that I had, and we talked a little about earlier, and I wanted to mention it then, but I kind of wanted to say it for this segment of the show, was because they were growing so fast, they were just letting any and everybody into the organization without a proper screening. So when I alluded to that, my experience as far as applying for this particular organization and them denying me, at that time I was pissed. Like, damn, this is fucked up. But today, as it stands, I can see, yeah, we have to be careful of certain people that we let in. And at the time, because they were growing and they were trying to get so many people in at the organization at that time, like they had no screening process. So when the yeah, exactly. If for them, it was a numbers game, because they're like, all right, the more numbers we have, the bigger presence we can have and the more protection we can have. And the FBI realized that vulnerability, and then that's when the FBI implanted, I forgot the guy's name, that snake into the organization. And then that's that. Yeah. Yeah. And we see that, and we see that today, right? This is nothing new. This goes back to Marcus Garvey, who in 1920s was holding these conventions in New York City. But even then, there were people who were trying to infiltrate his organization. Just as in the Black Panther Party, just as in we see today. But now it's more because of technology, it's more like on a more, it's more, I don't know the word to use, but you can, I don't know the exact word to use, but today is more prevalent. I will say more prevalent because we have technology. Right, man. So, long story short, man, yes, we definitely need to get back to that. We learn from the past, right? I mean, there's books, there's documentaries. We can learn the ups and the downs of the Black Panther Party, which we talked about a little bit here, right? We said, this is what they did good, this is the one thing they did bad, and apply that to organizations today, to where we have that filter process in place. To like, okay, well, why do you want to come? Why do you want to join the organization? What's your background? And we talk about jobs asking for references. Like, that's the level we have to get. I need 3 references. Or you want to apply for credit? I need 5 references. That's where the level we have to get to if we're going to organize something similar to the Black Panther Party and the UNIA.
And the brother that was the foreman actually is 2 I got right here. One's named William O'Neill, and the other one named Darthard Perry.
Yeah.
The one dude that switched for $500.
Yeah, he was getting paid for this.
That's a heroin addict right there.
Yeah.
Come on, man. 10 heads got murked for $500, dog.
Yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
It's crazy how they call them a terrorist group, yet this alleged terrorist group, the Black Panthers, that they say were the ones getting killed, not the ones doing the killing. Isn't that amazing?
That's very true.
Isn't that amazing?
That's true.
The thing about it is, here's the crazy thing. Because you alluded to exposing or look. I'm gonna tell you who that look would scare more. Black people. You know why? Because black people in this day and age don't want the little crumbs that they have right now taken away. We're good right now. We don't want to go ahead. Nah, we don't want that, man. I ain't trying to do that, man. That's doing too much, man. Nah. It ain't even necessarily about just getting killed. Because most black people in the hood live with the fear of death every day. It's what they're going to have while they're living, with the taken away, possibly. The fear of it. So that right there, that type of revolution, man, I ain't trying to do with that bullshit. Fuck all that, man. Shit, I'm trying to just get this little bread and live, nigga. I'm just trying to keep it peace, you know what I mean? Church says, no, we just going to wait for our salvation when we die. might be a judge or this and that, or